All right, good morning, everybody. We're gonna call the meeting to order and a roll call by management
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Timothy Caton,
here.
Andrew Ekstrom,
Here.
Elizabeth Collins,
Here.
Pauline Brodeur,
Here.
Henry Lanier. That's the roll call, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, great. Let's please stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, approval of the minutes of January 26th, the regular board meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Approval of the check warrant, number one.
Just a point of information on that, Mr. Chairman. I sort of redid this, the way we do it with our other agencies. Now that we're into the new fiscal year, warrant number one encompasses all activity for the month of July.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved, is there a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So
And
moved.
then what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna pass this warrant around to have all the board members sign it for me.
Okay, great. All right. Fiscal year 2024 year-end reports.
Okay. In your board packet, what I've done is I've numbered the pages to make it easier to reference. So the year-end reporting begins on page 11. And that first sheet that you see on page 11 is the certification of compliance
Thank you.
with federal and state lead paint laws. This is a form that needs to be filed every year with the Commonwealth as part of Housing Authority's end-of-year statements. It essentially says that all paint that is used in our buildings, whether it's a turn or it's hallways or whatever we're working on, is lead safe. And this all came about as a result of all the stuff that occurred in the country prior to the year 1978. So obviously, any painting products that are utilized now were not manufactured prior to 1978. So they are all lead safe. So this is just a documentation that says that we adhere to that. And then everybody that moves in as a new resident is supposed to get a copy of a pamphlet, that's put out by the feds that kind of explains lead paint and so forth. Lead paint is typically not a problem in a senior development. I don't think too many of you here like to munch on windowsills. But in a family development with a lot of little kids, that's where the problems arise. Little kids tend to be mischievous and they tend to, in the past, that's where a lot of the lead paint poisoning came from. So, but we plan to adhere to that law. So I'm gonna pass this document around to have everybody sign it. And there's a place for the, yeah, that's fine.
Or the chairman signs, I do the top one, right?
Yeah, as long as as you all sign somewhere around there is fine.
I'm leaving them here in case anyone comes.
That's fine, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
While that's going around, we'll move on. Page number 12 is the certification to the accounts the tenant accounts receivable data, and the financial statements, which I'll go over in a second, as well as the top 5 compensated housing authority employees. On page 13 is essentially a listing of the top 5 highly compensated employees of the Westport Housing Authority. There is only one employee of the Westport Housing Authority, that is David. So David's salary is listed there. He's the only employee, so he's the only one that, that is listed. Why do we do this? Why do we do this? This is something fairly new as well. Housing authorities in the early part of this century, the early 2000s, got into trouble where not in Westport and not anywhere here in Bristol County, but there were housing authorities that were that were paying exorbitant salaries to various employees and so forth, and it sort of made the news, and a couple of executive directors went to jail as a result of what they were doing. So the state changed the law, and now as a part of the reporting, each housing authority needs to report their top 5 highly compensated employees. So that's what that is.
Okay.
Our financial statements begin on page 14. And I just want to go over a couple of things there. We had a very successful year financially. Rents came in about 2% over budget. I'm on page 16. At the very top there, shelter rents we were budgeted to collect $255,000 in rents, and we ended up collecting $259,000 in rents. You may ask why did we exceed the budget on a rental collection? Well, there may be people that owed back rents that were catching up, so we were able to recapture some of that. So that that's all very good. And our expenses were all, very much under control as well. One thing that I did want to bring your attention to, which I think is very important, is, I'll tell you in one moment, page number 22. Page number 22. Item number 9, reduction of operating subsidy. You'll see that figure there, $25,473.56. Those are funds that the housing authority had to give back to the Executive Office of Housing because they were not spent. Okay, I can promise you that will not happen again. You're allowed to spend your subsidy. In this case, we essentially left $25,000 on the table. Okay, not the end of the world, but we're not gonna do that again. Our reserves were upwards of 122%. They're supposed to be 100%. So essentially what the Executive Office of Housing did was they just reduced it back to 100%. We still have plenty of money. That's not an issue. But, going forward, and I'll address this a bit later in the meeting, we want to take appropriate actions in the development to improve it.
That's right.
And if there's money available to do so, we don't just want to leave it there so the state can grab it. We want to spend some of that money, and we've started to do a little bit of it, but we are going to be facing challenges from a spending side, believe it or not, because the budget guidelines were just released, and they're being very generous. The state is being very generous this year, the upcoming fiscal year, to housing authorities. So they're actually increasing the cap by about 12%. So I'll be working, with our fee accountant and I'll go into that a little bit as well. But, you know, we ended the year good with the exception of having to give back that subsidy money.
Shame to lose that money.
Yeah, I mean, you know, some housing authorities try to spend it close, and they wind up giving back a few $100 or $1,000. This is a little bit on the high side.
Right.
But this is one thing we'll be on top of going forward. The tenant accounts receivable report is in your packet, beginning
Before
on
you-
page 24.
Question.
Liz?
Yeah. That 25,000, how much of it was used?
No, that's all going back.
None of it. It all's
Zero.
going back to the state.
Well,
Right.
And none of it is retrievable.
Well, believe it or not, I was having a conversation earlier with the deputy director, and I'm gonna try to get some of that back. I think now that the fiscal year is over, I'm not gonna hold my breath, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
You know.
But, I mean, considering the situation,
Well, I mean, it's, you know, it did happen, and I'm prepared not to let it happen again. If, you know, if we're given money to spend, we want to spend it.
exactly.
And again, it's always good to have a healthy reserve, okay? But the Executive Office of Housing mandates that you maintain at least a 35% reserve. Now, at one point, we were at like 122%. So we were way over what we needed to have in the bank. So my goal is to always come in at the end of a fiscal year right below 100%. So we don't have to give anything back, and at the same time, we can improve the property. So
Okay,
I'm gonna try.
thank you.
Okay, tenant accounts receivable. Again, a very good year with that. It was, on page 24, line item D, or letter D there, 0.75%. That was the percent of rent, of charged rent that was not collected. So that kind of goes back into what I was saying before. Why was the rental budget, did we exceed the rental budget? It was probably people catching up on back rent. But of the rent that we charged, only 0.75% was not collected, which is negligible. So that was a very, very good year for rent collections. And I have to say, in the very short time that I've been here, all the residents pay their rent, for the most part, pretty much on time. So that's not an issue here at Westport, which I'm glad to see, and thank you very much for that.
Good job.
It saves us a lot of
Good job.
hassle from sending letters and doing all the other stuff that we have to do when that happens, so. So the tenant accounts receivable report is kind of a long one. It goes through page 31. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm just gonna pass the second sheet around to have folks sign it, and, there is a place for the chair to sign on the top line there. Thank you. I also put in your packet the latest MMDT statement. There does not need to be a motion to put this on file. This is an FYI for the board. So there does not have to be a motion to file this. This is just for your information. And again, this is our investment account, which is separate from our reserves. So as you can see, we've got about $30,000 sitting in the investment account, which is very good. So I'll wait until, so that's made its way down there. I'll next move on to correspondence. I had a conversation with the chairman about this issue, beginning on page 34. We did receive a an open meetings request or a public records request from an individual who I understand formerly lived locally by the name of Patrick Higgins. And he had requested a copy of all of the calendar year 2024 minutes of meetings from January through July. And then if there were any executive session minutes. So I did provide him with all of that information to respond to the request. On page 37, I'm just sharing an email with the board that I received from Jim Hartnett, the town administrator. He said, "We normally respond to the complaint as required. I believe all appointed and elected officials need to take the state ethics online course and to sign off on the open meeting law requirement." So what the woman in town hall did was she sent some information which is located on pages 35 and 36 of your board packet. But the easiest way to go online and take the ethics, the ethics course.
Right.
Just for the board's information, Mr. Higgins filed a formal complaint with the Attorney General's office that the Westport Housing Authority was in violation of the open meetings law. And his rationale was that there was not references made in the minutes to documents in the board packet. For example, when you approve the minutes, according to what the complaint indicated was in the minutes, it needs to be, motion made to approve the minutes, motion seconded by, so-and-so. Please refer to pages 3 and 4 in the board packet. That information was not contained. Numbers of the board packet was not contained. So that was theoretically a violation of the law. I was not aware of that. So he subsequently filed additional complaints with 2 of our other managed agencies. And I haven't heard any follow-up on that yet, but I did engage in an email back and forth with Mr. Higgins. He's very knowledgeable about the open meetings law, and there are citizens out there that look at this stuff and make sure that public bodies are following the law. I'm assuming that's what he's doing. But Town Administrator Hartnett, he indicated to me that he would be issuing the formal response to this. So I'm gonna follow up with Jim and make sure that was done. But in the meantime, when time permits for the board, if you could take a look at pages 35 and 36, and when you have an opportunity, if you could look into maybe taking that course. That's a nice ringtone. Liz,
Yeah, this Mr. Hayes, his first name is Peter,
Mr. Higgins, Patrick Higgins.
Patrick Hayes.
Yeah. Higgins.
I'm sorry,
Patrick Higgins.
Higgins.
Higgins, okay. Who is this person? And what
He is.
connection to the town? Is it just Westport, or
No.
is it all neighboring
He has
towns?
to my knowledge, he has no connection to the town of Westport. He is either a resident or a former resident of the town of Swansea. And from what I gather, from what I've been told, he does have an online profile, so you can Google his name. He does this quite regularly. He will file open meetings requests to various public agencies across the Commonwealth, and not necessarily in this immediate Bristol County area. He's filed requests out in Springfield, Worcester, and it isn't only housing authority boards, he does select boards, he does city councils, he does planning boards, any public board that is supposed to meet publicly and have minutes available, either online or available to the public. This is what he does, and I guess he's a student, if you will, of the open meetings law.
Okay.
So,
Does he have an
essentially,
office? Is he a lawyer? What's his
I
title?
do not know anything about the gentleman.
Okay.
I do know that he, when the faxed report came to me, he's identified as now a resident of Huntsville, Alabama.
Oh,
So
that's
I
a
don't
good
know
place to
I
go.
don't know if he's even in Massachusetts, but again, it's important to keep in mind that not only Mr. Higgins, but it could be anybody in the public. If somebody from the public makes a request to see a public document, that has to be provided. So that's what we did. We did provide him with the information that we had here, all the board meeting minutes for calendar year 2024. And then as a result of him getting that, he filed a formal complaint with the Attorney General. I try not to have complaints filed with the Attorney General's office because that typically obligates their integrity office, or whatever they call it, to investigate. So we try to stay above board, and of course, we want to do the right thing, and it's not a heavy lift for me. So from now on, when you see the minutes, I'm gonna be referencing page numbers in the board packet. So, and the board packet itself is a public document. So in the event that somebody makes a request to see a full board packet, that'll be available for whoever wants it. So we shouldn't have this problem again.
Okay. You've given him material up until this point,
I've given him everything that he asked for.
and he's asking for executive session minutes.
I've given him everything that we have that he asked for.
Well, the reason I'm asking about executive session minutes, it was rare that we went into executive session, but I don't know if he's going to be looking for this or not, but when you have executive session minutes, they stay in executive session until they're approved by the board.
They stay in executive, right, and they also, you don't, they are also not, not to be made public
Correct.
until such time as the
Right.
issue at hand has long been resolved. Then you have the ability to,
Yeah, I was just thinking if he's gotten all this material and he has executive session minutes and he's going over them, might he come back and say, listen, this isn't right.
well,
You
that,
should
he could amend the complaint, he could do it.
Correct.
The request that came in was exactly what was in your board packet, and that's what I gave him.
Okay,
So he filed a complaint. He named the town of Westport as an additional, entity as part of the complaint. So typically I was told by Jim Hartnett, when the town is mentioned in a complaint, he's the one that files the response. So all I need to do is confirm with Jim that response has happened, and I'm pretty, knowing Jim the way that I know him now, I had the opportunity to sit with him for a while. We had a very nice, friendly conversation. I'm sure it's been responded to, but I will follow through.
one more question
Sure.
and I'm done. As far as the open meeting law, executive session minutes and regular minutes. Usually, it's not done every year, but this year is different. There are a lot of new people on boards, and not necessarily Jim, because Jim hasn't been doing this part of his job very long, but the Board of Selectmen can get somebody. I don't think they've got Copeland and Page anymore. I don't know who their attorney is, but they will put on a seminar, and we would be invited normally, and it would be easy for a 5-member board, you know, instead of 5 members going through all these papers or, you know, questions. You'd have everybody together.
Again, I'm not aware of anything that the town is doing. Like, you know, like I said, the information in your packet was what was provided to me
Okay.
by the town.
Okay,
Now, I could certainly follow up with the town and, you know, determine if that is something that could be in the works, but I haven't heard anything about that yet.
yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, you want to move on to management agent report?
Of course. Of
Okay.
course. Okay, in your board packets, beginning on page 38, 38 through 40, actually, 38 through 43, this is a maintenance report that I'm gonna start providing the board. And, we recently, switched over to the PHA web software, which enables us to print a report such as this. And this just gives the board an idea of what our superb maintenance staff member, David, works on during the course of a month. Now, this is not a complete report because this is only basically the month of July. But he's, you know, this sort of gives you a sense of the different work orders that get called in and the different work that he does. So again, this is just kind of an FYI for the board. So you know, Dave's not just walking around doing nothing all day. In
This is
addition to
this is very, very good.
Yeah,
We've never had anything
yeah.
to the like.
Right, and I
it's
did
really
white
important.
out, I did white out the tenants' names, that are associated with each work order,
Yeah.
so that's not,
Thank
that's
you
not
for
any kind
that.
of a violation on that. So, again, this is just an FYI.
Yep.
It'll probably be a little bit, you know, longer report next month. But again, just to give you the flavor of some of the things that Dave works on. And again, Dave, just, you know, the board, I think, knows this, but, and, you know, certainly the residents know this, but Dave only works 30 hours a week, because that's all the budget allows. And in that 30 hours, he's expected to, you know, turn vacant units, you know, take care of the grass during the summertime, shovel snow in the wintertime, do all the work orders. So he's got a lot on his plate, and, in the very short time that I've been here to date, that's one common denominator. Everybody seems to like Dave and the job that he does and everything else. And, you know, and I keep telling Dave, you know, if you need help, you have to ask for it. Don't try to be a hero and solve all the problems yourself. Try to ask for help if you need it. So I think he'll be getting there. He'll be getting there on that.
Speaking about maintenance, if I can,
Sure.
at what point do you decide that this isn't for Dave, you gotta bring in a contractor? How do you determine that?
Dave usually tells us if something is, you know, beyond his skill set.
Okay.
If it's, you know, if it's a complicated electrical issue, or, you know, if it's a plumbing issue that he himself cannot resolve, he will let us know, and then we would call out a contractor at that point.
And you do have a list of contractors,
We do.
so that you can get somebody right away to service the tenants if something
Correct.
important or necessary.
Correct, and again, Dave's been at this for a good long time, so, I think he's got the phone numbers memorized sometimes. If
Yeah.
he needs a plumber, he just says, oh yeah, I'm
He
gonna
does.
get out the phone and make a phone call. You know, but certainly, we try to solve issues on our own first before we call the contractor in.
Yeah.
But I just got through saying that we left $25,000 on the table. So if he needs a contractor, and that's, looking ahead, for example, on page 44, there's the vacancy report, and it's showing 2 units are vacant. I've let him know that he has authorization to, get a painting contractor in here to assist him with any of these apartment plans if he feels that his work is too much or that he's not able to get to it in a timely manner. So we have we will have other vacancies coming up, and, it's a nature of an elderly development that, there is going to be turns, folks unfortunately pass away, some folks go to nursing homes, some people get evicted. There's always going to be vacancies coming up, so we want to approach those in a reasonable way, and we also want to be able to maintain the state standard, which is we want to have these units turned over within a 60-day period. So that's our goal with that. So again, the vacancy report on page 44, that is something that'll be provided to you folks on a monthly basis, so you can see what we have. We only have 2 vacants right now. They're both in the process of being turned. So hopefully by the next time we meet, we'll have an update on that. Our state project updates. We have only one project that's in the pipeline right now. It's our door lock upgrading.
Yep.
The contractor was supposed to be out here last Friday just to do a walk around and measure certain things, and I guess a couple of his staff members came down with COVID, so he wasn't able to come. So he's gonna reschedule that for this week. I'm not sure if he's come already. Has he come yet?
No.
No. Okay. So it'll be in the works this week. So that's our state-funded project. We'll have more to say on that. The next bullet point there is budget guidelines. Excellent news on that. As I said before, the state is increasing our non-utility allowance by 12%, which is a huge increase. The highest I've seen since I've been in the business has been 8%. This is going to be 12%. So Dan Robillard, who is our fee accountant now, he will be making a presentation to this board at our September meeting to go over the budget and kind of give you like a snapshot of where Westport is and where we stand. So that's something to look forward to. But it's excellent news, and it's even better news because the guidelines typically do not get released until late September, early October. This is the earliest that I've seen them released. And, Westport is kind of in, it's in a very unique position because we have a June 30th, fiscal year end. So technically, as of July 1st, we've already been into the new fiscal year. So we don't have a budget in place right now, even though we're almost 2 months into the year. And by the time we approve a budget, we'll have almost a full quarter under our belts. So we can examine where we're spending money, and we can make tweaks as necessary. So it's a pretty good, thing. Housing authorities, for example, that are on a calendar year, fiscal year, don't have that luxury. but here in Westport and amongst the, you know, a couple of the other agencies that we have, they're all, you know, 6:30 year end, so we have that luxury of a little bit of a look back from July 1 until the budget actually comes out. But Dan likes to make an appearance once a year to sort of present the budget to the board, so you'll have an understanding, and it'll give the board an opportunity to, you know, ask any questions that you might have. So that's coming up next month. Community outreach. Since I've been here on July 1st, I've had an opportunity to meet with Representative Schmidt. I met with Jim Hartnett down at Town Hall. I've spoken to the town nurse and the Council on Aging. So we've done some outreach there. I mentioned that my goal was to file an application for a resident services coordinator grant. I was told that the funding for that had already been spoken for in the last fiscal year, so I wasn't able to file one. I will be filing one probably later on this year, and we will get Westport into our collaborative, you know, if they approve the grant, which they should. So I'm looking forward to that.
Good.
That'll be good.
Good.
Property improvements, we've done a number of things. We're on a schedule now. We've retained the services of a janitorial company that are going into all the hallways once a month, you know, giving them a nice cleaning. The feedback that I'm getting has been very positive on that. So that'll be an ongoing thing once a month. We just had the gutters done over the past couple of days. Feedback overall on that was okay. I did receive a little bit of negative feedback in the, just wanting a little explanation as to the chemicals that were being used in the process. And I've been told by the company that, there was nothing out of the ordinary that was used, and all precautions were taken. Any vegetation that may have been impacted was hosed down before and after. So if any residents had any, concerns about that, again, this is a insured professional company. They've been in business for many years. That's why we picked them. And so that was done this week, so.
Paul,
and-
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say the chemical they used, because I asked them, was Clorox.
Okay,
That was it.
okay.
Very small amount.
It was, and it was watered down too from, Yeah.
It was just a tiny bit,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, thank you,
You're welcome.
thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
No worries, no worries.
Can I mention something too? If there's gonna be any chemicals used in spraying, could you please let us know in a bulletin board what's being used?
Of course,
Thank you.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Next up.
Paul, question.
Yes, Tim.
In terms of property improvements and stuff, or whatever it is we're on, is there any, I think you and I might have had this discussion, but is there any idea or any thoughts going into maybe washing out the dumpsters and cleaning dumpsters by someone on a, when the trash is removed? Because actually, I heard from one or two of the neighbors here that said that they thought mice and rats and stuff were coming from the dumpsters, quite frankly.
Okay, that's certainly something we can look at. I don't know if I can reach out to the out of the waste company and inquire on that. It might be an added fee, but I think it might, it might be money well spent. We can also, and I'll admit, I haven't actually, physically looked at the dumpster myself. Perhaps, somebody can shed light on it. If the dumpster itself, looks like it's been around since 1970, maybe we can get a new dumpster down here.
Took me
That's-
2 years to get that one,
Okay, is that a fairly new one?
yes.
Okay, okay. But to answer your question, Tim, I
Yeah.
can certainly call to inquire if that's something that.
The only comment I have heard was, at one point, that dumpster got moved from there to out back, and I don't know how that affects the residents here, because they're first, most important, but I don't know how that affects them, but the problem went away when it wasn't where it is. Is that true or not true?
For as long as I've been here, it's been over there.
Okay. Okay. All right,
But I'll be happy to look into that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay, thank you.
no worries. Next in your agenda, or in your board packet rather, on page 45, this is just a housekeeping matter. Every so often, and I don't know how often it happens here in Westport, I can speak to the other authorities that we manage. It doesn't happen very frequently, but every once in a blue moon, somebody will file a grievance about something. Whether it's a policy violation, whether it's a rent calculation or something like that. What I'd like to do is, the way we have it set up in our other agencies is, we have a hearing officer that is charged with hearing the grievance. And the woman we use is a woman by the name of Emily Eschman. And her resume is on page 45 of your board packet. She is an independent hearing officer. She charges for her services. And she is probably the fairest person that I know. She sometimes she rules against the housing authority if she feels that the housing authority is off base or wrong. Or if she feels the housing authority is correct, she will rule against the individual making the complaint. What I'd like to do is just engage her services on an as-needed basis if we ever have a grievance. So her resume is there. Yeah, perhaps you've had an opportunity to look it over. I would just need a motion and a second, and then a vote to approve Emily as the hearing officer.
So moved.
No move. Second?
Second,
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you very much. Next, on pages 47 through 48, this is a contract for accounting services by and between the Westport Housing Authority and Milne, Shaw, and Robillard. It's been a pleasure in the very, very short time that I've worked with Fenton and Ewald, which is who we had prior, okay? Typically when a new managing agent comes into a housing authority and they have an established relationship with another accounting firm, we usually switch. So we are, Fenton and Ewald prepared the year-end reporting. So now they are all set with Westport, okay? So now Milne, Shaw, and Robillard, specifically Dan Robillard, will be assigned to the Westport portfolio. And it's a fairly straightforward contract. It's approximately the same that you were paying previously. So I would just need a motion, a second, and a vote to approve Milne, Shaw, and Robillard as the fee accountant,
Is,
retroactive to July 1st.
is there a motion?
So moved.
Second?
second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Hearing none? So moved.
Thank you, everybody. Finally, in your packet, and again, this is an FYI, the Executive Office of Housing has modified how they treat resident income. Whenever there's a major update coming from the state, I'll let the board know. But the bottom line is, you can read through this, It gives you what the old rule is and what the new rule is. It's very liberalized as far as residents are concerned. So they've made it much more favorable for residents. From an income standpoint, if you're a full-time student or a part-time student. So again, this is just an FYI for you. I'm gonna leave a copy of this for resident. I'll make a bunch of copies actually, and I'll leave it on the table here if folks wanna read it over. Some of it might apply to your situations, others, with the family developments it won't, but, I'll be happy to make copies of this and leave it. That is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We don't need a motion to approve everything, we just approved what we needed to, right?
Correct.
Okay, old business. Anything under old business? Hearing none, we'll move to new business.
If I could just raise a point under new business. I sent an email out to the board, probably several weeks ago. The Attleboro Housing Authority on Saturday, September 14th is having a strategic planning session from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. At the Sweet Community House, which is located at 44 Peck Street in Attleboro. And what we've decided to do, and it's, there's no obligation, it's not required. What we decided to do was invite board members of our managed agencies to attend the morning session, if you wish to. So that invitation has been extended. If you'd like to come, I know it's kind of a hike, unfortunately, to get from Westport to Attleboro, but I'll leave it up to each of you if you wish to attend. We'd love to have you. And again, it's just to hear input on some of the challenges. Every town is different. Every town has its unique identity and things like that, and different approaches to affordable housing. I was talking with Representative Schmidt the other day, and he has a lot of ideas, as far as vacant land goes, and, buildings that are not being utilized, and things like that. So there's, maybe there's something, maybe we can form, a nonprofit down here and maybe, advance affordable housing in the town of Westport. There's a bunch of different things we can do, but that invitation's been extended to you.
And in that invitation, I thought it said to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but,
Well, the managed agencies don't have to stay for the whole day.
okay, so just us board members would be a half a day,
Correct.
to noon or whatever.
And then the other part of it would be just Attleboro specific,
Okay,
different things that we're doing in Attleboro.
Oh, okay. Thank
I'm
you.
trying to set we've never done strategic planning, and, I don't know if I'm still gonna be around here in 10 years or whatever. I'd like to plan for the future of the agencies and the future of housing across all of our portfolios. And I think, strategic planning is a way to do that. Directors, come and go, they retire, they move on, whatever. I mean, I'm not planning on moving on. But again, I mean, I am, I'll have you guess my age, but I'm not as young as I look, put it that way. So I don't know if I'm gonna, I don't know how long I'm going to be on the job, but I love what I do, and I think strategic planning is the way to formalize a lot of these plans.
and not to mention, I'm all for, especially in my case, I'll speak for myself personally, I'm new on the board. I've been around other housing authorities with other businesses and stuff like that, but education is very important, and I'm willing to learn, listen and learn.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. I put the Westport Police Department up there. I did reach out to the officer, to let him know that his presence, I don't think will be required here any longer. Of course, if he wants to show up, he's more than welcome to come, it's an open meeting. But I don't think we need a police officer here at the meetings going forward.
Okay, great. Okay, commissioners' comments.
I have a comment. In the short time that Paul has been here, we've had some wonderful changes, wonderful things getting done. And also, it's very nice to see more tenants here. For years, I was the only one here, so it's nice to see participation.
Right. Great comment.
I've never seen as many tenants at a board meeting in all the agencies that I, you know.
Neither have we.
It really is.
Good.
This is great.
Okay. Any tenant comments? Next.
I know we're a you're new board members right now, and you haven't really got any policies set yet, but the policies that we're supposed to be going by, is it the Attleboro policies that we were supposed to, go by, or do we go for the old policy that we had from the previous board?
No, the Westport Housing Authority is an independent entity.
Okay, so I'm gonna wait for them to decide on new policy.
To the extent that there are policies in place, they are, you know, Westport specific. Now, we have policies in Attleboro that we could incorporate down here, but I haven't gotten that far yet. I haven't looked at it yet.
Because I was a little confused with the notifications that we've gotten
Mhm.
was more than likely, like, I don't follow policy, not ours. Because we didn't, there was some things that were on the notification that it wasn't on our state, our handbook, and as far as our policy. Some things were, but not the specific ones that we were notified about.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Let's have a conversation about that, so
Okay.
we can get on the same page as far as what you think is,
Well, I know, they're a new board, they haven't really established anything yet.
correct.
But I'm saying in the future, and if they do establish something for you guys to please put it in a handbook or something that we're gonna know. that we-
One thing about what we do around here is when we adopt a new policy, and this is the way that I've always operated, when we adopt a new policy, it's not just, okay, let's copy and paste, some Attleboro policy, and I'll stick it in the board packet and vote on it. What I like to do is have resident input. Now, down here, you folks don't have a formalized tenant association, okay? You don't really need one of those, but, down here, for example, in those agencies that I know don't have a formal tenant organization, what I would do, for example, this is what you brought up, I would type out a draft policy on something, whatever it is, a draft policy. And then I would leave it here in the community room. I'd make a bunch of copies. Residents can take them, read over the policy. It's a draft. It's not in stone yet. Read over the policy. Reach out to me with any ideas or any modifications that you think might need to be made. And then, we can tweak it. We can fiddle and diddle with it. And then, once it's kind of agreeable to everybody, then I can present it to the board for a vote. But it's not gonna be something where, here's the policy and here's the new policy and you're not gonna have any input on it. I like resident input. And I realize not every resident is going to comment on it. And I also realize that I could keep something open for 2 months and I could hand out memos and say, let me know your comments, let me know what you think. And I wouldn't hear from anybody, and then it would go to the board for a vote, and then after the board approves it, then I would hear from people that, what are you doing? That's just par for the course, and I understand that happens too. But I try to involve residents as much as possible when we're implementing policies. Yeah.
I have a question regarding that. The handbooks that they have now for their rules and regulations, do you plan on updating that? In other words, if we make a new policy, to something, and we decide for whatever it is, and we change it, and that's gonna go in the new handbook.
Well, it has to go in the handbook, and then it also has to go in our policy book as well.
Yeah.
With the date that the board approved it and
Right.
so forth.
Right.
So all those modifications will be made. I have a copy of the Westport handbook. And I'm gonna read through it myself, and what I'll do is I'll mark it up. I'll see what I'd like to change, what makes sense, what needs to be modified, that kind of thing, and then, but before there's any major change, okay? We have a resident board member, we could convene just like a focus group of residents that may want to have input on any changes. And it's all going to be above board, very transparent. It's not going to be, by the time you get it to vote on it, there's not going to be any question that it's the right policy and that it mostly
Yeah.
has agreement. So-
Okay, great.
Good evening, Paul.
Yeah, question?
After the meeting, I'd like to speak to you by yourself. Now, not this stuff. I want to speak to you about something else.
Sounds
All right,
good.
Joe?
Okay,
All right, thank you.
no problem.
Okay, before we get into adjournment, I just need to make a note that I failed when we started the meeting, and that is that this meeting is being videotaped. So I just need to get that out on camera. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
No.
No? Go ahead, sorry.
Well, there was somebody talking about bird feeders and nothing was brought up at the meeting, so I'm just curious. What happened since I didn't get a robocall?
Oh, that's right, you're the one that's not on the list. All right, we had sent a memo out, which I initially felt was, non-controversial, if you will, but I guess that's not the case. It's my understanding that, elderly folks, or folks in general, love their bird feeders, and they love to, watch the birds and whatnot, so, I did a robocall yesterday, probably some of you gotten it. And again, this is an example of what I just talked about, and, you live and learn, so to speak. If you, I essentially, rescinded that memo to say that the bird feeders are, they're fine. The only motivation that we had behind that, to be frank with everybody, was, there's a lot of wildlife around. And, wildlife is drawn by a food source, any kind of food source. And again, birds have to eat, birds use the bird feeders, but there's other animals that jump up on the bird feeders too. YouTube has a bunch of videos about squirrels that jump up on bird feeders and throw around, and we've all seen those. But if there is a food source that is available to wildlife, you're not only going to get birds, you're going to get raccoons, you're going to get skunks, you're going to get squirrels, you're going to get chipmunks, you may even get coyotes, or whatever else is living out there.
Yeah.
So it was, the only motivation behind that was from a tenant safety perspective, number one, and, number two, from a health and safety standpoint as well. But like I was telling Pauline and Liz before the meeting started, it's not really, it's not really a battle that I want to fight right now, to be frank
It's
with
only
you.
like
So,
two.
yeah,
two
so,
bird feeders.
so I'm not too concerned about it. So the gist of the robocall was that, I will rescind the memo, so, which is fine.
Sure, why not? When I work all day, I like after supper, I like to see the birds. I put 10 hours a day in, I like to see the animals outside.
That's what I just said, right?
Yeah, I'm saying,
Did you
you want
say-
to take the bird feeder away, something after a
I
while.
didn't hear him.
Well,
What did you say?
I just
Okay,
reiterated.
like the
what I
wild
said.
animals,
What did he
you
say?
go,
You'd like to see
you
the
don't
birds.
keep, still wild animals, still come out late at night. I I hear coyotes at 2 in the morning. They're way up in the woods. How you gonna stop that? The deers come out late at night at 2 in the morning, they walk around.
Well, I'm not gonna really stop anything, I just have concerns about, you know, resident safety.
Everybody's home at 2 in the morning, everybody's sleeping.
If there's a food source out there, well, not everybody has normal hours
I
either.
don't have no.
Some people are, you know, nocturnal, some people are up all night, some people go for walks at all hours of the night, and if there's food sources all over the place,
That's dangerous.
and somebody's out there walking, and, you know, and you come face to face with a coyote, well, that's an issue.
Excuse me, I have to leave. I have-
Okay.
I also think if they're gonna leave the bird feed, the bird seeds in the hallway, they need to be in a sealed container, not just a bag with the thing rolled up.
Yeah, we can, you know, we can look at that too.
Okay,
Okay,
good to go? All right, motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Thank you for attending, everybody.